And all right, guys, so I have a special guest with us today. This is my sister, Jenny. She is my bone marrow transplant donor. Show us that awesome t shirt you got there.
See that?
Yeah. All right, so give us some history on that t shirt.
My husband made this t-shirt and I wore it when I donated the stem cells. So I had it on. Some of your friends and fans might have seen it because I repost the picture every year of me standing with you when I don't remember if it was before or after we did the transplant. It might have been after they took the cells, but before you got them. Because the day you got them, I was wiped out.
Tell the audience. Tell the audience like who you are. Like they know you're my sister, but give us some background.
I'm James's little sister, the younger, better looking of the two.
Oh, watch out now.
I'm married. My husband is a defense contractor. He's retired military. We have one son who's 8 years old. He'll be 9 in December. And I have a stepdaughter who is probably 25 or 26 at this point, and just a beautiful young lady. I separated from the Air Force. I was active duty for 8 years, and I now work for the DoD. I'm a civil servant.
All right.
So that's me.
That's you. That sounds pretty busy. That sounds pretty busy. All right. So what people want to know is your side of the leukemia story. Tell us your side.
Okay, my side. So mom and dad were visiting for Thanksgiving, and we got a call from Barbie that Black Friday morning. Really was Black Friday. Mom and I had gotten up to go shopping, and they got a call that they needed to come up there because you were sick. And it was pretty alarming to get that call because it wasn't coming from you, but you were too sick to make it. So they got on a plane out of Panama City as soon as they could and flew straight up there. So that was when we found out. It was the day after Thanksgiving that you were sick. And then mom and dad were up there for probably a couple weeks or a week or so. The timeline's a little hazy at this point because it's 6 years ago. I want to say we were on our way home. We had gone to Disney World for my son's 3rd birthday. We were on our way home and mom called, letting me know that they were taking you to Chapel Hill because they were fairly certain you had cancer. They didn't know what kind or what it was or anything like that. So that's when we found out. It was December. And then when we found out, they typed it. We figured out what kind it was. Immediately it was, can I be a donor? And something I really didn't understand at the time was there was a possibility that I couldn't. I only had a 25% chance, which just blew my mind because we have the same parents. You know, why wouldn't our DNA be the same? Why wouldn't I be perfect? Other than you're a boy and I'm a girl, but why wouldn't I? We went through the process and I flew up there and did all the tests and found out that I was a good donor. So then we figured things out from there. Let's say it was April timeframe, end of April.
Yep, end of April.
Yeah, my husband and son and I drove up to North Carolina, and I had to get the neupogen shots from UNC.
Let's rewind just a little bit. When you first heard that I was going into the hospital, where I was being transferred from Johnston County to UNC Chapel Hill, what was going through your mind?
He's gonna die.
And what was your experience with hearing the words cancer or leukemia up until that point?
Well, mom had uterine cancer a few months before. So I had gone out to Vegas, and I don't really want to get into her medical history, but she had undergone a procedure to help cure her from that. So that was my closest connection to anything cancer related. And in her mindset, that happened to her so that she would be able to help you deal with this, with no idea that this was even going to come.
So what I'm asking is, like, when I hear cancer before my experience now, like what I've gone through now, I understand it a lot better, especially leukemia and the other forms of cancer. But when I first heard the word cancer, I immediately thought, okay, I'm dying. I'll be dead soon. That's what I was thinking. So when you hear the words leukemia or cancer at that point, and I was being transferred to Chapel Hill, you had just mentioned that, you know what, he is going to die. And is that really how you felt?
Yeah, because you were one of the healthiest people that I knew. You didn't smoke, you didn't drink. There weren't things that would make me think this guy is going to get cancer.
Right.
I mean, of all the people in our family, you would not be the one. You were in shape, not a smoker, not a drinker.
Right.
So
Doing
I just
like
kind of thought, what?
week for mud runs and flipping tires and doing all that kind of stuff. So.
And I just didn't. Mostly, I was like, what could he possibly have? And then when they typed it out, and it was ALL, which acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and then there was something with Philadelphia chromosome.
Yeah, type 2 Philadelphia chromosome.
Yeah, you do the research and you look for things like cure and things that they can do to make you better, and there's not a whole lot out there, and I think that's because they don't want to give people false hope, and they need to leave it up to the medical team to diagnose what your treatment plan is going to be. But it was just really disconcerting, and almost immediately I reached out to a couple of good friends, and one of my girlfriends called me back and she said, I really want you to understand this, that leukemia is not a death sentence. And I thought, what are you talking about? You don't know. He's an adult that got leukemia. We're not dealing with a child that got leukemia. And a friend of hers, her husband had recently gone through, it wasn't ALL, it was some form of leukemia, and they treated him, and it's not called remission. I'm not sure. Will you ever be told that you're in remission?
Yeah, so I mean, just recently, over the past few months, since your donor stem cells, my body has accepted, and I'm creating my own to basically combat the leukemia, keeping it knocked down. My body is fighting it and winning the war. I have 2 cancer doctors. One just retired, and I just had a new one come on just a few weeks ago. And they both have said, we're comfortable with using the word remission. However, there's always a possibility of a relapse and always a possibility of getting cancer somewhere else because of all the treatment that I've undergone. But as of right now, thanks to you and thanks to God, Mom and Dad, Barbie, my entire support system, I'm here, and they are comfortable using the word remission because it is over 5 years now.
I love that you said you're winning the battle.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is because, you know, we come from a long line of military folks too, all Air Force, Army, Air Corps. So we don't know how to do anything except win battles.
Yeah. And I don't know how to quit. I've never quit anything. So, all right. So you talked to your friend, and
Yes.
she said leukemia is not a death sentence.
Yes, that was my girlfriend Allison. So she
And how did that make you feel?
I appreciated it at the time, and it made me feel good. It made me feel like there was hope. But you're the optimist and I'm the pessimist, and so there was always that part of me that thought, you know. But the one thing we have in common is, okay, what do we do now?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. So we got the
Yes.
diagnosis. Now what?
Yes.
I mean, I'm not going to sit and worry. I'm going to sit and try to figure out now what. As soon as they said there the option of a stem cell transplant and finding a donor, I was immediately on board. Just send me the kit, swab my cells. I'll come do the physical. I'll come do whatever it is I got to do.
So here's what I was told about the best possible donor. Because when I'm told some of this stuff in the hospital, especially at that time period, I was on some heavy drugs and my days tend to go together a little bit. How it was explained to me was the ideal donor would be a same-sex sibling, like a brother, because the DNA match would be closer. The next best thing would be a sibling, female, that had not given birth or had not been pregnant. If you'd already given birth, you'd already been pregnant. And then the reason for that is because there's a change fundamentally in your DNA, because obviously your body is going through a tremendous amount of change to create life and to carry a life and then to give birth to life. Yeah, so you guys go through a big fundamental DNA change. When we had the bone marrow drive here, clients, business owners, I mean, people in the community really came forward and they did the DNA swab in the mouth to see if they could be a match. From what I was told, when you sent in your kit, you ended up being like a 95 or a 97% chance
Wow. I didn't know that.
And yeah, the doctors, they kept saying that doesn't happen. Like that's like they waited to test you. They waited because they didn't want to give me hope or give you hope. And you ended up being the ultimate best match. And I even asked, could we take a sample of mom's DNA and dad's DNA, since obviously you and I are a mix of the two, would that work? And they said that would work as like kind of last resort. But when they got your result back, it was as close as anyone could hope for. And I mean, like, even from the bone marrow donor list, because I was on a registry, and they had found, I think, someone in Germany, a male in Germany that was close, but you ended up blowing that out of the water. So that's what I was told. Tell me what you understood.
I wasn't told any of that. Not a single bit.
All right. Well, that's what I was told.
I knew that the likelihood was like 25%. And I thought, that's just crazy. I would have at least thought 50 or more.
Yeah. And I thought the same thing, because they initially said 25% to me as well. Yeah. And mom and dad were like, you got to test it. We got to make sure this is good. What prompted you to do that? Because growing up together, we were typical brother and sister. I was a little hard on you. Not too bad, but I was a little hard on you.
You're my family. I don't question that. There was never a doubt in my mind what I was going to do.
That's awesome. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I absolutely
would. You make me cry. I'm not wearing waterproof mascara.
That's all right. I brought my tissues because I know I'll probably start crying as well.
Oh, please.
Throughout this. And, I thank you all the time. Obviously, I would always do the same thing for you without question if the roles were reversed. Let's talk a little bit about you coming to North Carolina and actually going through the process of the bone marrow transplant. Explain to our audience, because when I first went into the hospital, literally the first 2 months, I thought a bone marrow transplant was that they were going to cut into my bones and do it all like Frankenstein, chisel into my body. But that didn't happen. So you go ahead and fill in.
No, I want to share a little bit before that, because I want to talk about how God was in this. We did the swab and sent that in, and it was good. And then they needed me to come up there for some type of physical assessment. So I flew up there, and on my flight out of Panama City, I was upset. And the woman sitting next to me was flying home, I want to say to Romania, somewhere Eastern Europe. And she asked me if I was okay. And I said yes. And she asked why I was crying. And I told her, and she said, she had a little bit of an accent. She said, I'm a cancer nurse. And I said, say what? So I remember opening up my phone, an app on my phone, and taking down notes for everything that she said. Things like the radiation is going to burn his throat. He needs to drink aloe juice, things like that. And it was just very comforting that God put somebody in my life that could help me and talk me through some things that I was going to have to go through and deal with out of nowhere. So that was a God wink that was really special. And I flew up there. I stayed the weekend with you in the hospital. Didn't leave. Didn't bathe except in a sink. And we did the whole physical assessment thing, and everything was fine. And I was in good enough health, which is always concerning, especially if you've ever struggled with weight, or if you've ever not been physically active for certain periods of time. Because once I left the military, I was just kind of like, woo, no more PT tests. I don't have to do that anymore. Have a child and just kind of let yourself go. And I was worried. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a match. What if I'm not good enough physical shape to be a donor? But that wasn't the case. So then we had to come up when you were ready. I think you had to go through radiation first, right? They had to deplete pretty much everything in your body.
Yeah, they were taking me as close to the brink of death, killing every cell, anything that the leukemia could attach to.
I remember, and I don't know, you probably don't remember, but Mom and Dad weren't there. And I remember having to meet with the doctor initially that would be doing the radiation, and we had to go into an elevator and go underground. I don't even remember how many stories to get to where this chamber would be that you would be doing these radiation treatments. And normally it's just if you have breast cancer, they shoot a spot or something like that, was the way he explained it. But for you, because it had attacked your bones, they had to do the total body. And I thought, I couldn't even imagine blasting your whole body with that amount of radiation and surviving that. But if there was anybody that was going to survive it, it was going to be you.
Well,
like, there's no way, no way.
Well, I got to tell you,
the driving force, I think, for you, like, you really wanted to see your kids. Like, your kids, the thought of seeing your kids and being with your kids again drove a lot of that, I think, because you were bound and determined that you were going to get back to them. So I think that was important, and there was nothing that was going to stop you from that.
I had just done a video on that, going down to that basement. And
really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I get zapped like full body with the radiation. And the analogy is that my body has been sent to the sun 5 times. That's how much radiation they zap me with. And to this day, if I ever need a blood transplant, it has to be radiated blood. Like, it has to be radioactive. So after the doctor, talked to you about the process with the radiation, what happened next?
We went back upstairs, and I was just the one that was there. I think I got interrogated by Mom, who was taking notes on everything.
Right.
But then it was time for me to do the neupogen shots, which we were staying at your home. And so we had to drive. Jay drove me every day to and from Chapel Hill. And I would get these neupogen shots, and they hurt.
Where did they give you the shot at?
I don't remember. I remember waking up at night and in pain, and it was like my entire skeleton was pulsating, because what the neupogen shots do is they stimulate your bones to overproduce stem cells. So your bones are overproducing these cells, and it's painful. It hurts. It's not normal. And I remember waking up in the night and Jay rolling over and asking if I was okay. And I remember just crying because it hurt. Just hurt like I wasn't expecting it to hurt. I thought, okay, I'm going to get some medicine. I'm going to produce some stuff. And no, I didn't realize the total process until I saw the machine of how it was going to work. I think it was about 7 days of those shots. And so we'd drive up to Chapel Hill. I'd get the shot. We'd come visit. And then we'd drive home. And Mom and Dad, the kids were in school, and Mom and Dad kept Parker, and that was that. And then when the time was right, they attempted to hook me up to the machine that would pull blood out of one arm, run it through a machine, and then put it back in the other arm. But they had problems with my right arm. They couldn't get blood flow out of it, which I thought was just hugely ironic, because the military could get blood from me whenever they wanted, and they never had a problem doing it. They should have just installed a shunt, because every time we came back from any kind of trip, they would take blood. So finally, after hours of attempts, I had bruising, and just my right arm was in bad shape, and my blood pressure was through the roof because I was frustrated and they were frustrated. They asked if I'd be willing to come back the next day and get a port, and I thought, I'll do anything to get up out of this bed and you stop poking me. That's what we did. We called it a wash that day, and then drove home. I came to see you, telling what had happened. Not sure if you remember that. Do you remember seeing my arm?
Yeah, I remember all that.
So we drove home, and the next day came back. Getting a port was pretty easy. They explained to me that I could go under if I wanted, but I didn't have to. But they were going to put something about the size of a ballpoint pen in through my neck, and it would insert a tube or something down towards my heart. And then they would hook me up to the machine, and there would be 2, I don't know what they're called, but 2 things that came out of the port. One would be where the blood would go out, and one would be where I don't want to say washed blood, but the blood that they pulled all the stem cells from would go back in. So the little port that went in here and had 2 little pieces come out. Because it's a research hospital, the guy that did the surgery was a student, and then he had an attending, and the guy attending was an Army doctor, like an Army reservist, and we had been deployed to some of the same places. He'd been to Balad, Iraq, and some other areas, And so the whole time that I'm on the table, we're talking because I chose not to go under because I wanted to see it all. It was fascinating to me. And so we're talking the whole time about me getting this done. And then when it was done, they cleaned me up. I went up to the room where it was time to do the transplant. I think I lay there for about 6 hours while they pulled blood out of me and put it back. That part is just crazy because I didn't feel it. I thought, oh, I'm gonna be, I don't know, depleted or something, but I didn't. It was just weird. It was just how cool modern technology is that you can actually take somebody's blood out, suck the cells out that you need, and put it right back in them. So it was really cool. And then they have to process the blood, so you couldn't get it right away. They had to do the transplant the next day. And they thought they were going to have to keep me overnight. They weren't sure because they had to take the port out. They couldn't leave it in. So I went to a doctor's office there in the hospital. They pulled it out. We applied some pressure. They said, okay, it looks good. No heavy lifting. Don't pick up your son for 72 hours. Don't open car doors. And I said, well, what would happen? And they're like, oh, it would burst open and you'd probably bleed out. I was like, what? So, but everything was fine. It didn't happen. And I went home with every intention of coming back to see you and be there for the transplant the next day. But I felt emotionally, physically beat. Like I just couldn't do anymore. Just 7 days of the shots, 2 days of the transplant. I needed a minute. I just couldn't. And so I asked Mom if we could FaceTime when it was time. And we did. And I have a screenshot of you and I FaceTiming.
Oh, you do?
Yep.
I didn't know we did that. I don't remember that.
Yep. You're laying there and you can see the IV thing behind you. And you can see this. We don't see the cells. It looks like a liquid that's being pumped into you. But that's, not the most flattering picture. I think I'm in a nightgown and.
Now, were you just more physically tired, or were you like emotionally tired too?
I was emotionally. It's hard to be in pain, for 7 days. I mean, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. I don't have anything to complain about. I didn't have leukemia, but it was something I wasn't used to. It was physically challenging to me to go through that.
Yeah.
And when to come up every day and see you is hard.
When you were sitting there for 6 hours, could you, like, if you had to go to the bathroom, could you get up and go to the bathroom? I mean, or were you like in that chair? Like you couldn't move for 6 hours?
Oh, no, I was in that chair. The good part about the port is that if we had done it the way that they had originally wanted to do it, my arms would have had to have been laid straight out for 6 hours or 7 hours, however long it took to get the cells that they needed, with no bending, no nothing. They didn't even, I would have thought they would have tied my arms to boards, but they didn't do that. And if I had bent my arm, the needle would have gone through the vein and we would have had to start the process over. So for me, that was stressful. And especially when they couldn't get the blood, that was extremely stressful. And I think my blood pressure got up to 190 over, I don't even know, it was crazy. So the port was actually easy because it was like a hands-free thing. So I sat there, I could read a magazine, I could be on my phone, I could do what I wanted to do. It was more comfortable than being stuck with the needles. But overall, the entire process was just hard.
All right.
Doable, totally doable, but...
Yeah, oh yeah.
Physically and mentally, it was a little draining because you think, well, what happens if this doesn't work? They said it's a good chance. So what if I've, done all these things, and you're looking around the room. I was in a room with other people who were donating stem cells to themselves. Like they had cancer and they were taking they had cancer. They were taking neupogen shots or whatever their treatment plan was, but they were allowing the hospital to harvest their own cells so that they could give them back to them. It was really...
I didn't know you were in a room with other people. I thought you were by yourself.
It was almost like, have you seen pictures of dialysis rooms where there's people sitting around and they're all getting dialysis? It was almost like that. Right. I had a little Wi-Fi hotspot so I could connect to the internet. And so Jay came down and he sat with me and we just did it.
All right. So from your perspective, once I was getting the stem cells, so we did the FaceTime, what did you do then? Like what happened with you after that? Like how long did you stay in North Carolina?
Oh, I rested that day. And then the next day we got back on the road to come back here because I had to go back to work. So because because I'm a civil servant, we got paid time off or annual leave and we get sick leave. And I could use that sick leave to take care of an immediate family member. So I I used sick leave to come see you and do that. But I had to get back to work because it was like a 10 or 12 day process. I think it took us 2 days to get up there, 2 days to get home, 8 days of the process in general.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
It didn't seem like a lot. I mean, it's totally worth it. Nothing I would change. I'm just glad it worked.
Well, did you ever have any doubt?
I did. One of the things I do with my job is assess risk. What's the likelihood this will not work, and what's the impact if it doesn't? You know, what's the likelihood it will work? You know, that's one of those things. And so, as positive as I try to be, especially for your sake, there was always in the back of my mind, what if it doesn't?
And what did you do in that moment?
Said we'll figure it out when it doesn't.
For me, I never had any doubt that it wouldn't work. I knew it would. It just wouldn't happen fast enough for me because the IV drip, it's a drip. It's not like when I had the dual ports, when you're usually connected to an IV, it's got a pump and it pumps the medicine and the blood and everything through. This one, because of the stem cells and I guess because of the fragility of them, it had to be a gravity drip. So it took all day. And you're right, they were concerned about did we get enough? And it ended up that they got more than enough. They actually got more than enough. And it worked out wonderfully. Once you went back home and I started telling you about things happening with me, what were your thoughts? What were you thinking?
It worked.
Okay.
When is he gonna get out of the hospital? Because I remember visiting you and you couldn't leave that hall. You couldn't get fresh air. And I thought I would be going crazy. And for someone like you, who you never wanted an office job, you never wanted, that type of atmosphere, I couldn't imagine what it was like for you to be trapped in there. And so I thought, I just hope that he doesn't rush it and tries to go home too early, because and then I was always afraid, I didn't want you to get sick. But I know that you wanted to get back to your regular life.
Yeah, I was sick of those walls, but
yeah, you were. I remember
because of my athletic background and already had gone through a divorce a couple years prior to this. Mentally, I was pretty tough, and then leaning on God and trusting what He planned out was the way to go. But I did say to him in the hospital, if this is it, I mean, let's do this. I'm ready.
Yeah.
If it's not it, put your healing hand on me, and I'm here. So, in my opinion, He's not done with me on earth yet. And I firmly believe that for you to share your story, for me to share my story, this is part of the reason why I think I'm still here, is to share this and to get this out. I got the bone marrow transplant from you on May 1st. May 1st, 2014.
New birthday.
Yes, very new birthday. So December 2014, I went down to see you for Christmas, right?
Yep.
And
do you remember not feeling so great?
Here's what I remember. I drove the kids down. It was a very uneventful trip, which was a good thing. But I was exhausted when I got there because I had started back training. Like you said, you were afraid that I would jump in and try to push myself too much. But that's all I know how to do. I don't know how to just
take it easy.
Yeah. But when I got to your house and I was able to let the kids be with, mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, you and your husband and Parker, it was such a relief. I didn't have to be dad at that moment. I could just chill out. And I remember going to bed, I think maybe the second night I was there, and then waking up a day or 2 days later. And I had just crashed. I had pushed myself. And I woke up and it was an afternoon. And you guys were all doing Christmas things and the house smelled good and Christmas lights were up everywhere, and it just was a good moment. But I had missed about a day or so because I crashed and I fell out. But my body was I think because of the radiation, all of the treatment, emotional stress, physical stress, mental stress, I think I just physically gave out. Anything else you want to add to this? This is your side of the story.
I don't know if you've talked about it or shared about it, but one of the hardest things for me, I was at my in-laws' house for Christmas. This was after you'd been diagnosed, and the time came to shave your head. Do you remember?
Oh yeah, I got pictures of that.
Mom and Dad, I think, sent me a video of the kids. And I remember sitting in my in-laws' loft upstairs.
Yeah, that was on Christmas Day.
And crying. Because at that point, we didn't know stem cells, transplant, like who, donor.
Yeah, we didn't know.
Stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We didn't know. But
And that was, you had always, you had this dark hair and it was really hard. And I mean, for you and the kids, I tried to make it like a fun thing, and that was hard.
Did it make it real?
It was already real. I'd already driven up there to bring Mom and Dad the escape and stayed with you. And all you wanted to eat was Skittles. And
I'm sure my clients would love to hear that.
Yeah, they wanted Skittles. There was another time I was up in Virginia for work, and I drove down just to spend one night with you in the hospital. And you were eating, they brought you in your dinner, and it was a cheeseburger. And it smelled amazing. And I thought, give anything to have that cheeseburger. But I was trying to diet. I think I went to the dining facility there and had a salad, and they brought you in this cheeseburger, and I thought, that smells amazing. And you were like, this is like eating saran wrap. I thought, you can't even enjoy it because you hated, like, nothing tasted right or metallic, or it just wasn't. And I thought, it smells really good.
It tasted like saran wrap because my taste buds with all the drugs altered my taste buds, and things that you would normally think would be amazing, it was like I would look at it and I would remember what a cheeseburger was supposed to be like, but did not taste that way. Once you came to Chapel Hill and you spent those nights with me since the bone marrow transplant until now, I feel like our relationship has gotten closer. Do you feel that way?
Mm-hmm. Before that, there wasn't this, we're family, right? And we love each other, but there wasn't this overwhelming need to be in each other's lives. I mean, you talk to some folks who have siblings or sisters or brothers, and they're closer in age. We were about 4 years apart, so we were never in the same school together. We never had the same group of friends. And then I moved away to college, and you were in Vegas, and then you moved back to North Carolina, so I'd go back to Vegas and visit, and we didn't see each other much. We didn't spend much time together, and there wasn't this need. I mean, we'd talk every now and then on the phone, but we weren't close. Now we are.
Yeah.
Because you needed me.
Yeah, well, we all need each other, and it took cancer and treatment for me to realize, that I do need to be closer to you, and I should have been probably a little nicer to you. But out of your love, obviously generosity, your husband's love as well, that I'm here and I'm surviving. And I'm doing well. I'm doing very well.
I wish I could reach through the phone and hug you.
Yes. Anything that you want to tell anyone that might be going through what you're going through, like what you went through, anything you want to tell them?
What you're going through is nothing compared to what the other person is going through. The duration of the hurt and the emotional stress, as far as the donor portion, wasn't easy, but it passed. As far as a sibling going through leukemia, know that it's not a death sentence. Exactly what my friend Allison told me over and over and over again. It's not a death sentence. It's not a death sentence. Believe that, trust that, pray about that, go forward with it, because you can't sit and wallow and worry and stress. It's not doing the person that is sick good, because they need to be surrounded by people with positive attitudes that say you are going to get better. And as a caregiver or sibling or somebody that's going through that, do what you need to do to keep your mental health up so that you can be that positive support for that person.
All right, good words. Well, Jenny, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for sharing your side of the story. And I love you very much. And
I love you too.
I can't wait to see you next and see your family. And we'll definitely, we'll get that hug.
All right, I love you, James.
All right, Jenny, I love you too. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye.
Bye.